Hi everyone. Today it was announced that Supreme Court Justice David Souter planned to retire. According to Nina Totenberg of National Public Radio, Justice Souter at 69 years old believes that he wants to enjoy the rest of his life, and so at a young age he is planning to step down. This presents President Barack Obama with a wonderful opportunity to begin remaking the Supreme Court. He has a great chance to install a real legal scholar whose work has impacted many people and who is extremely regarded in his or her field. In this case, my candidate that I present to President Obama and the country is Professor Kathleen Sullivan. Professor Sullivan, like President Obama, is a constitutional law specialist. Indeed, an expert, one of the nation's foremost experts in constitutional law. What does that mean? It means that she specializes in the interpretation and implementation of the United States Constitution in our daily lives. Now, the importance of that cannot be underscored because there are those who would claim that our basic civil right law, the Civil Rights Act of 1964, for example, is under attack by a number of micro-discrimination laws in different states, which some contend bump up against our civil liberties. As these cases come before the Supreme Court, we need people in place who understand how to best evaluate these laws and how to evaluate the arguments that are brought forth in these cases. Also, as the Supreme Court is the place for the consideration of the United States Constitution, it's only logical to have a constitutional law scholar and an expert replacing Justice Souter. But who is Kathleen Sullivan and why her? Professor Sullivan is 53 years old as of the making of this video and was born August 20th, 1955. She hails from Michigan. And like President Obama, I suppose that makes her playfully a Leo. But more importantly, Professor Sullivan went to Cornell. She graduated as a Marshall Scholar from Oxford, and she received her JD at Harvard Law School. Now, a person that is extremely well regarded by everyone in the world as perhaps one of the best and most knowledgeable constitutional law scholars of our time, Lawrence Tribe, called Professor Sullivan the most extraordinary student he ever had. Professor Sullivan is the author of the 14th edition of the Casebook Constitutional Law, which is the nation's leading book on constitutional law. She was dean of the Stanford Law School from 1999 to 2004, where she recruited such legal luminaries as cyber law expert Larry Lessig and raised $63 million for the law school, established a clinical law program in East Palo Alto, and managed to recruit 14 law professors, all of whom were considered and have been young rising stars in their areas of coverage. After her tenure as dean, Professor Sullivan stepped down to establish a new Center of Constitutional Law. She has, over her time as a practitioner in private practice, a number of interesting clients and a diverse list that ranges from Republican Senator Mitch McConnell to the City of Honolulu, ABC Television, Hearst Publications, and the San Francisco Chronicle in the Balco case regarding whether or not the reporters Lance Williams and Mark Farnuwada could actually use testimonial and information they received from the grand jury, and Seabell Systems, to name just a few of her clients. Indeed, in all the research that I have done, and in a book that I read called The New Federalist Papers, Professor Sullivan has revealed herself to be a fiercely intelligent, active practitioner of the art of explaining not just how the Constitution impacts our lives, but far more importantly, the interplay of technology, social change, and the Constitution. From what I've read, Kathleen Sullivan is without a doubt the most qualified candidate to replace Justice Souter. Indeed, the fact that Professor Kathleen Sullivan is lesbian should have nothing to do with her selection as the replacement for Justice David Souter.